You are listening to Directions from a Spiritual Tour Guide podcast. I am your host, Chanel Scott. I'm a psychic medium and energy healer who has been supporting those on a spiritual journey for over a decade. I'm your tour guide into the world of the unknown, showing you that the magic of the universe is at your fingertips. I believe spirituality is simple and fun, and this podcast will make it easily accessible, giving you the real talk on all things divine and spiritual, helping you to step into the flow. Manifesting your dreams because we all deserve to be living our best life. Are you ready for an adventure? Hello, sunshines, and welcome to Directions from your Spiritual Tour Guide podcast. My name is Chanel Scott, and I am your host and your spiritual tour guide on this amazing journey called life. This week, let's talk about mediumship. Are you a medium? What is a medium? Let's talk about it. I am a psychic medium. I have been able to connect with spirit since a very young age. And it is also something that I turned off for a lot of years because I found it scary as a kid and didn't want it to be there anymore. But luckily, I was able to turn it back on as an adult and, reconnect with that. Being a medium can be a really scary thing, especially for young people. Babies and infants, toddlers, are very close to the other side still. They just crossed that veil and have a strong connection. So they often will see spirit and connect with spirit much easier than we do as adults because we have so many more boundaries and walls up for connecting with spirit on the other side. So children have this natural gift and this natural ability, and often when they talk about imaginary friends, they're talking about spirit from the other side that they're connecting with, whether that's your loved ones or just a spirit. But you'll notice that as they get a little bit older, that kind of tends to disappear, and as does that ability because we don't nurture it in a way that we grow it. Even for myself, I remember being young and seeing a spirit and questioning it. My mom saying I didn't see anything, that nobody was there, and kind of finding that it was scary and just wanting to shut it down. But know that you can set boundaries around spirit to make things seem more comfortable for you. So let's just talk about kind of how do you know if you're a medium? And I won't say that there's any that you have A, B, and C, and D that makes you a medium, because everybody's going to kind of move through things in a different way depending on how you receive information. So there isn't like a set number of things or a set list of things that you have to be a medium. But there are some things that you might notice as someone on your spiritual path, that you actually are somebody that can connect with spirit, that you are somebody that connects with the divine. So, for example, you may find that you get these sudden bursts of emotion or pain or illness. That is often spirit coming in. As a medium, I sense spirit, and when I started on this process to where I am now, that sensing was very different. Often when spirit comes through, they're sharing how they passed away. It's just a way for them to validate who they are. So often we'll feel that way that they passed. For example, for me, as someone that comes through that has died of cancer, of breast cancer, I feel one breast and the other one feels like it's not there. It's a really weird sensation, and it took me a little while to kind of figure out that's what was happening, and that's where that information was directed to. Same thing, a heart condition will feel like palpitations, or maybe a stroke will feel like a saggy face. Again, these are my signs from spirit that this is how they passed. If they passed as something that was breathing related or lung related, I get a heaviness in the chest or kind of like a closing of the throat feeling. I can't catch my breath or find it difficult to speak. Again, that is how I receive that message. That is how spirit tells me those are those things. So for someone who is experiencing that, you might not recognize it right off the hop. It took me time to understand the signs that I was getting and even the feelings that I was getting. I wasn't recognizing them as spirit coming through as much as I was just kind of feeling irritated by the sensations that I was getting. Now, a great tool that you can use when you are dealing with a sudden onset of something is you can say, if this is mine, I own it. And if it is not, I release it. If you find that sensation lessens or releases completely, it is not yours and it was somebody else's that you are feeling. Now, if you're an empath, you may be picking up somebody else who is here in the physical world, those sensations from them. That same tool works for that. It is a little bit different when it's spirit because it's not, we're picking it up from someone physical, but someone on the other side. It's still kind of an empath kind of thing, but it's just we look at it differently when we are dealing with mediumship. As a medium, depending on how you receive information or process your intuition, will also kind of determine how you connect with spirit on the other side. I would say for myself, it is not my main gift. It is not my main skill set that I use, and it's one that I had to build over time and really work at to really get much better at. For some, that is such a natural gift that it comes so easy to them that it's easy to connect with spirit on the other side. And again, it depends on how you receive, how those information comes to you. Every medium is going to be different. Everybody's going to receive in a different way. It doesn't make one better than the other. Someone who with a natural gift isn't going to be better than someone who worked on their skill set to get really good at it. It's just different. And everybody's going to connect with someone differently. So someone who connects with me as a medium may not connect with the next person as a medium, or vice versa. Now, how we receive that information is helpful sometimes if you're working on that mediumship skill as well. Know that spirit is going to share things with you in a way that you can understand them. So the signs, symbols, and messages are going to come through in a way that you can understand them. For some people, you're going to physically see that person or see them in your mind's eye and see them talking to you or showing you things. Maybe you hear the person and you audibly hear a voice that probably sounds a lot like yours, but the words aren't necessarily yours. That is also kind of that audible piece coming through of them sharing information. For me, I'm claircognizant. I just know things, so I often just know things about the person, what I'm under, whether they're male or female, if they're speaking in an accent or a different language, kind of their personality, what they kind of looked like, their job, maybe a name, sort of those sort of things come up for me. Again, you may receive completely differently and are going to receive information in a different way to be able to process as a medium. Now, one of the things I found for myself that was a big stumbling block was kind of boundaries around spirit coming through. One, I didn't want to be bombarded when I was busy doing other things, especially when I was being a mom and needed to be dealing with my kids. Or if I was at work, there was a certain amount that can come through, but at the same time, I can't deal with spirit all day long when I'm supposed to be doing my job. So I kind of needed to learn how to set the boundaries around when spirit was able to come through. At the same time, when I was a child, I found it scary. And as an adult, when I started to turn it back on, I found spirit often came through at night because it's when your guard is down. A big rule of thumb as an intuitive, a psychic, a medium is no spirit in spirit. We don't drink or do drugs and then connect to spirit because we allow way too many boundaries down and it gets saucy and not good. So that's a typical rule of thumb. Although some people, I guess, would use that as a way to let down those barriers and those guards. For me, when I was starting back into it, at night, spirit would come through because, of course, my guard is down because I'm falling asleep or asleep. So I'd wake up and have spirit right in my face or hovering over me, and I found that really uncomfortable. So I set boundaries on how close they could get to me, that, if they really needed me through the night, that coming in through a dream was a much better way than actually waking me up and scaring me in the middle of the night. Anybody who knows me knows I don't like scary things. I do not like blood, guts, and gore. I do not like horror movies. I do not like thriller movies. I do not like it. I am the girl that will sleep with the lights on because I do not like it. Paranormal, I'm all about it. I talk to spirit. I'm okay. I can watch Ghost Adventures until the cows come home. But scary movies and stuff like that, no thank you. So for me, setting boundaries about how things come through and what they look like was big too. I do not allow spirit to come through in a way that is scary for me. I do not allow them to come through with blood, guts, and gore, even if that's how they passed. There is a gentler way for them to share that with me without them upsetting me. I don't need to be upset because that defeats the purpose. By upsetting me and taking me off my game, I then can't connect with you in a way that's going to be able to share the messages of healing and love that you need to share. So spirit is happy to oblige and come through in a different way for me. If somebody has died in a tragic way, they are able to share that in a way that I can understand it without showing me the grossness of it, the horrificness of it. They can share that in a way that I understand and can validate for someone how their loved one has passed without upsetting my soul in the process. So having some energetic boundaries is always really helpful when you're working on your mediumship skills. Now, I will say one of the best ways that I was able to work on my mediumship was working with other mediums. So I offer gallery readings on a regular basis, which is a group mediumship reading. And when I started attending those with people that I enjoyed getting readings from, I suddenly started to realize the things that I was receiving and that they were actually signs, symbols, and messages from spirit. So it was a really great way for me to work on that skill set, was actually doing it. And of course, doing it also helps. Now, it's not always easy to find spirit to connect with and share messages to if you don't have someone to connect with. So, and it can be hard reading for friends and family because you know that spirit. There is something that is way more validating reading for someone you don't know, because you don't know these spirits and they're actually, the person you're reading for is able to, tell you those things to validate the information that you're getting through. So that can be a little bit tricky when you're working on a skill set too. So finding a mentor or like a group that you can work with is really helpful when you're working on mediumship skills. Now, one of the big questions I always get, because at the end of a gallery reading, if people haven't gotten a message and there is time, I always ask people if there's someone that they would like to connect with, and is there any questions? And it's funny because it's a common question is, are they happy and healthy on the other side? And the answer is always yes. It is heaven. It is a lovely, lovely spot. People often show up, interestingly, around the age of about 30, 35, that is the magic age in heaven. For whatever reason, that's the age that people tend to go to. So if someone is past young, they'll tend to grow to that age. And if somebody is past old, they'll kind of come back to that age. So that's kind of like the magic age in heaven. But our loved ones on the other side are often okay. It's us on this side that are not. So being a medium is such a blessing in the sense that I get to share those messages from the other side. Healing messages, messages of love, answering questions, creating closure for people, or just giving them that one more message from a loved one that they miss so dearly. It is something that I truly honor and cherish and feel like it is such a blessing to be able to do that for other people. I will say too that one of the other things that comes up is I will get reached out to when someone has passed away. And my policy is I don't read in crisis and I don't read right after someone has passed away. There needs to be time for someone to grieve and to deal with the feelings and emotions of this passing before we start connecting to that spirit on the other side. At the same time, spirit on the other side also takes a few days to a week typically to transition. And I know we talk about no time and space on the other side, but there is a gap of space on this physical plane that needs to kind of pass before we can connect to that spirit on the other side. Now, there are always exceptions to that rule, and let me share a little story that is quite personal about that. So my grandma passed away quite some time ago now, and she passed away quite suddenly and unexpectedly. She had gone into the hospital not feeling well, but nobody ever expected her to pass away. So it came as quite a shock to our family. In the time that they were dealing with my grandmother's passing, my mom and my grandpa were dealing with paperwork and things that. And in that, there was things that needed to happen for the lawyers and the funeral home and things like that. Very quickly, my grandma started coming in and showing me a wooden box. And I didn't understand what was happening. I just knew that I needed to know about this wooden box. It was quite plain. I had this feeling of a jewelry box, but it didn't look like a jewelry box. My grandmother's jewelry box, my own jewelry box, was ornate and very feminine. And that was not the sensation that I was getting with this wooden box. So I kind of just kept pushing it to the side because it made no sense to me whatsoever. And that was the only thing she was sharing with me. She wasn't talking about why she had passed or anything like that. She just kept on showing me this box, showing me this box, showing me this box. So I was on the phone with my mom. We were doing a check-in, trying to get organized, getting myself and my kids down to where my family was and so on and so forth. And my mom said to me, I got to call you back. We're really struggling. We can't find Grandpa and Grandma's marriage certificate, and we need that for finalizing some paperwork. And she seemed really frazzled by it. And I said, oh, okay, well, can I help? I said, Grandma's been showing me a wooden box for 3 days now, and I didn't understand what it was, but clearly I think I'm supposed to tell you about the wooden box. And it kind of feels like a jewelry box, but doesn't look like a jewelry box. It feels like a wooden box. I said, I don't know, but hopefully that's where it is. Let me know. My mom got home to my grandpa's house and messaged me and said, so the marriage certificate was in your grandfather's jewelry box, which is a very plain wooden box, and is someplace where it shouldn't have been. We knew it existed because they had sent me a copy of it a handful of years before that, because it was their 50th wedding anniversary, and I had sent off for a letter from the Queen for them. So we knew it was there someplace. But my grandpa said, I have no idea how it ended up in my jewelry box. It's not where it was ever kept, ever. But there it was. So my grandma was very clear about that message. I will say again, that is the only message that she was sharing with me. She wasn't sharing anything else, no matter how much I kind of wanted to connect more with her. She was not sharing anything more than that. It was simply sharing that information that was needed to create a completion, a solution to the problem. So often spirit will not show up in that little window that exists. There needs to be this time frame that crosses to allow them to cross over. At the same time, sometimes spirit reincarnates and comes back again, so we can't connect with spirit in that sense because their spirit has come back. The other thing that I have encountered over my years is sometimes spirit has work to do on the other side. And if they do, we also don't have accessibility to them while they're doing that work. It's like they have some spiritual stuff that they have to do to be able to be prepared to come and connect with us again. That is a very rare thing that happens, but I have had it come up during gallery readings when we're trying to connect with someone, especially someone who is at the end of the session. So let's just talk about gallery readings for a second, because honestly, they're a favorite thing of mine. I love a night with spirit. That's what I call them. It is such an honor to gather with people and to be able to share messages from loved ones crossed to the other side. It is, I always joke that there will be laughter and tears, but spirit is super fun. I love spirit. They always have me in stitches. If there are tears, they're usually just tears of love and happiness. They are not tears of sadness. But the loudest spirit gets heard first at a gallery session. So whoever is my loudest spirit, and it's not always who people think it is, that's who gets to be heard first. And I will validate who the person is, give them to the person that they belong to, and share the messages with that person. And then we say thank you for them joining us and let them go. And then the next spirit will step in. Sometimes one spirit will bring in another spirit because another spirit isn't strong enough or is too shy to come through. That happens sometimes. The other thing that I also notice in gallery readings a lot is sometimes a message is what I like to call a cling-on message, that two people will be kind of like, oh, that could be mine, that could be mine. And the message that comes through could be for both of them, even though we actually give that person to one of them specifically. The other person will often feel like the message that came through was something that they also needed to hear. So it's kind of that cling-on message factor. And then I just keep going until spirit is done. And I always know when we're finished because it's like no more spirit will step forward for me again. That being said, at the beginning, I feel like driving to an event, my car is very full. It's like the bus shows up and people start showing up way in advance. And I'm like, ooh, hold on. We're doing that at 7:30 tonight. Not right now. You've got to wait to be able to share messages with the person that needs to hear them. Hold on, kind of thing. So it is interesting how quickly spirit will come through and how early they'll show up for an event before it even starts. So it is one of my favorites. Like I said, I do have an in-person gallery reading this Thursday, June 30th at 7:30 p.m. in Dundas, Ontario. If you'd like some more information, feel free to reach out. I do offer them on a regular basis, every once in a while on Zoom. And now that we can meet in person, more of them are in person. If I didn't answer your questions about mediumship today, feel free to drop me a line, ask a question. Maybe we'll do another podcast to answer those questions. So grateful for you joining me today to talk about mediumship, what it is, are you, and to share a little bit about gallery readings, one of my favorite events. So thank you so much for joining me. From my heart and soul to yours, have an amazing rest of your day.